What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. We have tires galore. The goal is to get a set or to mount up a set of 40s for the race Jeep. When we were building this thing and taking it out to King of the Hammers, I bought like 10 sets of tires and we have a ton of them left over.
So this is all my fault because he had all these extra tires and I was like, well, I want some. So I'm going to take 4 of his used tires and put them on the LJ because I got a new set of bead locks for it.
She has been talking about bead locks for her LJ for a long time now, and she finally pulled the trigger. And since we have all of these extra 37s that aren't being used, we might as well use them on her Jeep. Now for the 40s, I have an old set of Yokohama Geolanders that were previously on the JKU that we swapped out for the Aturo green labels, which are the stickies. So these are going to get mounted on the race Jeep. I'm already getting confused, guys. There's a lot of moving parts here, but we want to have a set of 37s on the race Jeep, or for the race Jeep for race activities, and then a set of 40s so this thing can go out and play. Because I mean, realistically, with how this is set up, we could probably run 43s on this thing. Now everything is bumped and set up for 37s, so once we get the 40s on, we might have to add some to the bump stops to really be able to use the 40s. But I mean, we're running LS3 TH400 Atlas, the beefy advanced driveline 1 tons 40 spline 513. This thing is set up pretty much like a buggy, so we might as well put some tires on that we can actually go out and use and have a lot of fun with. So I guess the first thing to do is get started, take some tires off, and we got a day full of bead lock activities. And then hopefully towards the end of the video, we can take this thing out and go wheel it on 40s.
And then a year from now, the CJ will get the hand-me-downs or something from one of these other ones, because the CJ is now drivable.
Didn't really talk about that. You know, Cassie picked up this CJ. I showed this on the channel a long time ago, but we finally brought it back, got it running and driving, and this is gonna be Cassie's new project. Watch, it's not gonna start. And dies. It still needs a little bit of work, but that's a project that's going to be a lot of fun. And who doesn't like a classic CJ?
I was going to start it and drive off and tell you, you know.
Good luck with the bead locks. All right, guys, let's get to work. First step is to make sure we get all of the air out of the tire before we remove the bead lock ring. Otherwise, you're going to be faced with a quite unpleasant surprise to the face. And then go to town, removing all the bolts.
I got a splinter. Is there tweezers in the shop?
They suck. They won't do anything.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
I look back to the house. Oh. Like the tire's just folding in on itself. Nope. Nope.
Can you try standing on that side so it doesn't fall up?
No!
Shoot you to the moon.
Then why don't you get out and do it and I'll drive on it? I'm not standing on the tire. You're gonna shoot me to the moon.
Yep. Keep going. Keep going. Yep. Keep going. Yep. Must not be heavy enough.
The board?
Huh?
Board?
Come forward a little bit.
I'm in the truck.
Oh. Yep. Keep going. There we go. You're good. It's just the wood breaking. Keep coming. All right, stop. Go back. There. A little more. Right there. There. Okay, back up. There we go. These things can be picky to unseat the back of the bead. We had to use the F250 just to get enough weight to do that. Now, the other way you can do this is to use a high lift jack on something heavy, but I've done that before in the JK, and sometimes it's still not enough weight to unseat it from the back bead, and I've had to take it into a tire shop just to have them bust the back bead. But luckily, F250 was enough weight to unseat this. Now we grab our bucket, get the tire all the way off the wheel. I need to get the vacuum to suck up all these balance beads.
And I'll take this off your hand.
So the first one is done.
And you can tell they're like a little chunked up. Like you definitely raced them, but they're still perfectly fine for wheeling. They're perfect for my Jeep.
Yep, I wouldn't, don't want to race with them in that condition. Next year before Hammers, we'll buy a new set of tires and go out there with a fresh set. So these will be perfect for Cassie's Jeep wheeling.
Tires anyway.
Might as well use them, yeah. So the first bead lock is off, and it's time to grab one of the 40s and get it mounted on this and see how it looks on the Jeep.
All right, up and over.
Maybe the third time's a charm.
There you go.
So before we throw the ring on the wheel, we're just gonna try to get the bead of the tire centered on this lip of the bead lock. So you just might have to grab a hammer and make sure it's nice and even all the way around. Sometimes it will try to walk one side to another, so I might have to hold it while Cassie hits that side. And once we throw the ring on, I like to start a few of the corners just to make sure that the tire doesn't move off the lip of the wheel. And with all the bolts started, that's when the real party begins, bringing it into the shop and breaking out the torque wrench and slowly torquing these in a star pattern. Not star, but you're alternate from side to side, and you're gonna do that about 3 times. First time around like 8 to 10 foot-pounds, step it up to 13 or 14, and then finally, depending on your wheel manufacturer, anywhere from 16 to 18 foot-pounds. So that's when it starts to get fun and you get the arm workout. Man, we are 1 down, 4 more to go.
And then another 4
on your Jeep. Yeah.
And last but not least, it's time to air it up and seat the bead. And no matter how many times we do this, I'm gonna jump every time because it scares me. Boom. There it goes.
Oh, that was
That was
it?
a quiet one. I lied. I didn't jump.
Higher pressure gauge.
Yeah, there was one right here.
The jump from 37s to 40s is such a drastic difference. So as you can tell, we got the other 3 buttoned up and on the Jeep, and it looks killer. Now we do need to hop it off the trailer, still check for bumps and go make more bump stops, but I was curious to see if we will even be able to take this wheeling with this trailer size. And it looks like we are going to have to get a bigger trailer. This one has outgrown it. So we're gonna take the JK or Cassie's LJ wheeling coming up pretty soon, because we're thinking about doing like a group ride down at Crossbar sometime this summer, and some of the other off-road parks in the area. So we're trying to map out some of those locations. We're gonna go out there and start making a bunch of waypoints and routes with the onX app. With onX, we're able to map out and plan our wheeling trips just a little bit better. We can add waypoints on our map with notes, pictures, and this can be anything from the beginning of a trailhead, a really cool rock obstacle. onX has a bunch of icons to choose from and label it as you want. And like I mentioned, we can add pictures. So this is a great tool not only for pre-planning a trip, but also doing it while you're out there on the trail, and you're able to relive that moment later, especially if it's a new park or a new area you're visiting for the first time. You're able to go back and hit those spots easier the next time. We're also able to build routes in conjunction with those waypoints, plan out a trip, make sure the day goes smooth, and we can always put those in a folder to share with other people as well. So we have a few that are mapped already, but we want to dive in a little bit deeper, not only with Crossbar, but some of the other off-road parks in Oklahoma. We're probably gonna have to take the JK or the LJ out there because it might take a few days to get a trailer. We need to get this back off, flex it out real good, and then start building some custom bump stop extensions. Since we're doing this, we might as well go over how to set your bumps appropriately. Now, there's a few different ways to do it, but this is one way that I find the easiest way to do it. So since we did throw bigger tires on, if we just flex this to the point where it was originally bumped to, it would get all up into this corner armor. So what we could do is trim all of this to fit a bigger tire, or simply add a bump stop down here on our axle. So as you can tell with the 37 setup, we can actually fit them up in there a lot more, but for wheeling with the 40s, we're gonna check
that ain't gonna work, so we're gonna have to change it up.
So what we do is crawl under the Jeep and measure the side that we're checking bump at, and we are gonna measure from our base pad up to the top of a hydraulic bump stop in our case. This aluminum puck is just for racing, so we'll remove this when we're running 40s. And it looks like to the top of the bump can is 5 5/8. Now we're gonna subtract an inch from this lower one. Right there, you can see it's an inch. So we need to make a bump stop that is from this point up at least 4 5/8 of an inch.
That's a big old bump stop.
Yeah.
Do we have a piece of, we're gonna use like multiple pieces of?
So the plan is to make a base plate with the 2 bolts, weld some DOM tubing just as like a tubing extension.
Okay.
And then another plate on top.
Got it.
For like race applications, they'd probably bend, but we're not gonna be racing with the 40s. It'll be more of crawling, and should be beefy enough. This is where things get a little bit different from racing versus rock crawling. So your bump stop zones, when you're setting up a high-speed jumping car, something that really needs the hydraulic dampening fast and hard, you set your full bump up not at flex, but just full up travel. So both of them are at the same time. The distance of where these are mounted, whenever you actually flex, is going to change on how soon they bump. So it's almost impossible to get a perfect bump at up travel and a perfect bump at flex. So for like a crawling type rig, you want to set it up for bump at like flex, because that's where you're spending most of your time instead of the high-speed full bottoming outs. A lot of rambling, but a lot of little things to make sure that we get this set up to wheel right and not break anything, because that's the last thing we need.
And so. That's what I always tell him too. He's like, let's throw 40s on it and take it to Crossbar. I'm like, we're not gonna break anything.
Right,
Okay?
and the last thing I want to do is have to switch a bunch of stuff over. Like the bump stops are just bolt on, so we could swap those easily.
Yeah.
And then the wheels and tires, just swap those back over to 37s, and boom, we are good to race. We still have a brand new set of 4. We'll just make them 5 inches, and that will be good on the rear. And then we'll come back out and start doing the front. So the first thing we're doing is drilling out the base plates of our bump stops. So it's gonna be the base plate that bolts down, piece of DOM tubing, and then another plate on top. We've measured out the distance between our 2 mounting holes. We're just gonna go ahead and blast 2 holes in there, start welding stuff up.
Very difficult to get it like, ooh, right?
Oh.
It doesn't shoot out.
Get the spray.
What?
Oh, this just works a little better. If you can aim it right. See, and then it just kind of like melts in.
Oh yeah.
So this is gonna bolt on and be the base. Now we can take a look at our old bump stop pad and see where the bump was contacting. It was actually forward of the bolt hole. So we're gonna use, not this piece necessarily, but weld that on the base plate forward of the bolt hole. And then the plan is to cap it on the top. And if we want to get fancy, we can throw some more weld washers in here and reinstall our original bump stops and have it so we can still change and fine tune the height on the top plate.
Man, you're making some adjustable bumps.
And this is all pretty much temporary because we're severely limiting the up travel when in reality, all we have to do is trim the corner armor and we can get this usable travel back. But I want to show you guys the difference of a proper design suspension with full usable travel versus a bumped suspension. So that'll probably have to be in a different video, but we're setting up this first part with just kind of what your typical Jeep's gonna have. You buy a lift kit, you put some 3-inch bump stops in there to make the tires happy, but it really does change how the Jeep and rig handles when you can remove those and get full articulation. So, a lot of chatting, not enough working. And then one more thing before we get this ready to weld, I like to add a little bevel on both sides for the weld to get nice and deep. So I just come over here. So, I mean, you could do that with a grinder,
Oh, you did
but
good.
it just, the belt sander seems to do such a,
That was quick.
it's a nice job, and then you're not throwing metal shavings just everywhere.
Which I absolutely love when that happens.
We just throw our bolts in. We're gonna center this up. Yeah, that's right in the center of the bump pad. So it has been a while since Cassie's been up in the shop welding, so we're gonna let her tackle this one just to slowly get back into it. I mean, I've been up here, unfortunately she wasn't able to really, I mean, she helped out some with the race Jeep, but all the welding and everything.
Oh God, I pretty much built it.
When is the last time you've welded?
It's been over a year.
It's been quite a while, so she's gonna tackle this, and we're gonna rate her welds on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh boy.
Open it up for the whole YouTube community.
Yes.
I don't do that when I weld, but. All right, let me set the camera down and let's get this tacked up. Beautiful, you made it. Let's see, let's give it a
I wouldn't
judge.
say it's the most beautiful you've ever seen, but I should have kept going.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I will put the camera down because I think I naturally stare towards the light and then I end up with a face
Oh my gosh, you
sunburn.
always get a sunburn from welding. Like the next morning we wake up in bed and his face is just like lobster red, but not his eyes.
I'm normally like, like 10 seconds is fine, and then I do that like 5 times and I hurt my face the next morning.
And now we're drilling holes in the top plate so that we can add the weld welders.
We drill them out bigger size and we can weld this on the bottom and it gives us a nice threaded hole in here. All we have to do is finish welding the bottom side of this and we have our bump stop. no big deal. Already had that marked a while ago. I'm gonna look at the rear. What's oil pressure at when we're on an incline?
40.
Cool. So we were able to clear the 40s, checked the rear, the bumps were all good there, and we actually had a little bit of extra to go. So that's always nice.
So how did the front look?
The front actually is perfect. The only place it's hitting is the grill right here. And the grill's already held in by zip ties, so it's not like, you know, the only time we're gonna get in that scenario is when you're at full flex in the front and you turned all the way over. That is gonna be it for this video, guys. It is time to go search for a trailer so we can start towing this thing around. Thanks for watching. Like always, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.